growing up, like not having that community around me,
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to cultivate it myself, and find people who are like me through like releasing the song. Instagram DMs, I live and breathe in Instagram DMs, and just messaging as many people as you can, being like, hi, I'm available this time, I can do this. The worst case, they just don't reply, and then you forget about it. I was scared of networking for a really long time, and then I did it once. All the people I met that night are still like my friends. Yeah, and I've also worked with them.
Before we get started, I just want to say a massive thank you to Arts Bar Baltic for supporting this episode of the podcast. Arts Bar Baltic is a venue in the heart of the Baltic Triangle region in Liverpool, and they host loads of great events, including a battle of the bands and an open mic night every Sunday. And the best part is that all of their events are completely free to attend. Do check out what they've got coming up via the link in the description below, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome back to Sound Advice. I'm joined this week by ZARA Smile. ZARA, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's good to have you on the show. So, you are a singer-songwriter in the sort of folky genre, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, what I want to talk about for this episode is sort of, as an independent artist, you do a lot of different things, wear a lot of different hats.
Yes.
So, we're kind of going to break that down into all the different roles you do and give them, like, their real titles if you weren't just meshing everything into one like a lot of us do. So, but first and foremost, you're a singer-songwriter. So, like, how long have you been writing, singing your own music?
Since I can remember, honestly. I remember writing like my first song as a video, like a home video of me at like probably like 7 or 8 years old, going, I wrote a song, like running into the room and then just going, whoa, 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 yeah.
We all
Proper,
did that,
like
don't
One
worry.
Direction style. Yeah, and then like ever since then I've just been writing and singing everywhere as much as I can.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's like your biggest inspirations behind your music, do you think?
Oh, they change a lot, to be fair. It just sort of depends on what I'm listening to. So at the moment, I'm listening to a lot of Leith Ross, Faye Webster. I'm seeing Faye Webster this year, so I'm really excited.
Nice.
Yeah, and then like a little bit of like Riot Girl punk at the moment, which is a bit rogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like just sort of everything. Like I'm very inspired by like the musical theatre, like arrangements, like big arrangements. Yeah, just kind of anything that I've like heard that I think, oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, that's interesting because you wouldn't necessarily expect like big arrangements from someone who's like focused on folky kind of stuff. But
yeah,
I think it's nice that you sort of, whenever you speak to anyone about like their influences, there's always just like so much stuff that you never would have maybe guessed.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, I can kind of hear that.
Yeah.
And you also produce your own music.
I do. Yeah.
How did you get into sort of producing stuff?
Well, I did music tech A-level at my college.
Right.
And that kind of like taught me Logic and taught me the basics. And then during lockdown, I just started like producing like covers, and I was just like, I was like getting like 3 a day on the go, and I like tested out every single plugin in Logic. I just loved it. I loved creating my music and like making it sound like really like big and like full. And just carried on. But
you've been writing for a lot longer than you've been producing.
Yeah, a lot longer. But I feel like the two kind of go hand in hand now.
Yeah, well, I was going to say actually, do you find that? I definitely find this, that sort of if you produce your own stuff, the production side of it kind of melts into the songwriting.
Yeah.
After a while, like they kind of just feel like one thing.
Yeah, especially with like arrangements now, because I'll write like the basis of the song, like just vocals and guitar, and then I'll like arrange the whole thing in Logic. So like the keys, all the like massive harmonies and everything, they're all just in Logic. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I'm suited to as well, because I often like will just write songs in the DAW in the first place, as opposed to. Yeah. But as of like a folk artist, do you sort of naturally find yourself starting on the guitar, or do you ever find yourself starting on a laptop? I guess is where I'm trying to go with that.
Not really, to be fair. I usually find myself starting on a guitar or a piano, like writing the basis of the song, and then sort of moving over, like recording a demo once it's like a fully finished product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered singer-songwriter and the producer ZARA Smile. We're now going to be talking about ZARA Smile, the social media and marketing manager.
Yes.
So, just generally, how do you sort of approach promoting your music on social media?
I think just carrying on, just keep on doing it. Like no matter like how many views, how many likes, how many comments you're getting, you can't get bogged down with all like the numbers, because like it's all like the algorithms are just too hard to like understand.
Yeah.
Like it's a full-time job in itself. So just carrying on and just being like almost like as annoying as I can possibly be on social media about my stuff. Like I like to say I'm quite humble. Like in real life, I won't I'd be like, I make music and I do this and I do this.
Yeah.
But on social media, you have to be like, this is my song and it's really good and you should listen to it
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, you've got to like prove yourself to like your audience.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of just being bold enough to like be yourself and like get it put, but like not just be yourself, but like push what yourself is onto people. That kind of sounds bad.
Yeah, it's
But-
kind of like reorganizing myself like as a brand.
Yeah.
Instead of like, it's not me, it's my brand on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really weird.
That's that's got to feel weird because I think it's a lot easier because I do stuff with a band and I think it's a lot easier to sort of you have more of like a separation of like yourself and your artist identity.
Yeah.
But like you
It's
use
just-
like your sort of your main Instagram account is your artist account.
It's just me, yeah.
So was that a conscious decision to do that or?
It sort of just transformed that way. I sort of changed all my like social names to ZARA Smile about 6 years ago now. And then they just sort of became like my artist name. And it's sort of just like my music's always been so intertwined with like my personal life and me.
Yeah.
And it is just like me at my most like vulnerable state. So yeah, it's been kind of like, you know, it's just sort of transformed that way. And I like showing my like personality online as well.
Yeah.
And like tying that into my music.
Yeah, to sort of to dig into like some specific stuff. Your recent single, Spotlight. How did you sort of approach promoting that on social media?
That one, it was more about like, because the song itself is about growing up and not feeling like I had a community around me of people like me, because I am mixed race and I'm queer and I'm non-binary, and I just hadn't met anyone who was all of those at the same time. And so like growing up, like not having that community around me,
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to cultivate it myself and find people who are like me through like releasing the song. And so it was more about like finding like-minded people, finding people who relate to the song. So just lots of like call outs to like, if you have ever felt like this, then this song is for you.
Yeah. Moving on to another role that you do is that you're your own live booking agent.
Yes.
So how do you typically go about getting gigs in Liverpool?
Messaging lots of promoters, just
Yeah.
Instagram DMs. I live and breathe in Instagram DMs, and just messaging as many people as you can, being like, "Hi, I'm available this time. I can do this. I make this music. When can you book me?" And just that sort of way. I also run my own events company, so I've booked myself gigs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I wanted a gig for like a specific day, so my EP release party, for an example, I just booked the venue myself and just started a promotion company, because who can do a better job than me?
Perfect. You were talking about being humble earlier. Immediately just fall out the window. But
I'm such a control freak, especially with like music stuff.
no, I completely get it though, because we did our own gig with my band, and you just have this sort of, you say, full control over like everything. Like you can like fine tune the playlist that's on in the background to like set the mood and just set everything up.
I had my like playlist running in the back. I had all my friends playing the gig. It was
yeah.
great.
We did the same thing. I mean, is that kind of what inspired you to do your own events in the first place? Sort of that community and sort of having it like completely customized to you and what you wanted to do with it.
Yeah, and also like giving a voice to both folk artists and also like people of colour within like the Liverpool scene specifically, because I feel like both of those things are sometimes quite overlooked. So yeah, it was sort of being able to do both of those while also putting on like really good events and supporting really cool people who make good music.
Yeah. You've also managed to gig outside of Liverpool.
Yes.
You've played some gigs in London and Manchester. How did you sort of go about getting those? Because it can be difficult for a lot of people, I think, to convince a promoter from a different city that you've not been to many times or aren't from, that you're going to go and sell tickets. So how do you sort of approach that?
Well, London I am actually from originally.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that'll do it.
That's kind of, I've been gigging in London before I was gigging in Liverpool.
Yeah.
But I occasionally go back there and play a little gig and then
I see,
run back up here. But Manchester, I found a call out for like musicians for this like record company, and I just DM'd them and I got a gig with them.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like messaging people and just being like, I've got this much of a fan base in Manchester. Like these many people probably will come to a gig that I do. So like yeah, do you want to book me? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a football analogy that me and a couple of my friends use, which is that just for life, that you got to get a ball in the box. Like, you got to just like shoot, like send your message out and like give it a chance, because you can sit and think that it won't work, but you don't know it won't work unless you do it. Exactly. And then if you do it and it doesn't work, then you still don't have a gig. If that makes sense?
Yeah, like the worst case, they just don't reply, and then you forget about it.
And then you don't have a gig, like if you didn't send them a message in the first place, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Okay.
Absolutely.
We've now got, you're also head of ZARA Smile PR.
I am.
And you've managed to get quite a few like different press things, including from Sound Advice alumni Boot Music, who was sat in that very chair.
Yes.
So how do you sort of approach getting press for your music?
Again, Instagram DMs. Instagram DMs
Becoming
and
a theme.
emails. Yeah. Instagram. I spend my life on that app. Yeah, and also just emailing. I just, there was like a period of 6 months where every time I saw a magazine name, I would type it in my notes app. And I got like a list of like hundreds and hundreds of magazines, radio stations, like everything. And links to apply to all of their things as well. And I just, as soon as like Human was about to get released, I just emailed every single one of them. And I'd say about 10 of them came back. But, you know, that's, yeah. Yeah.
But if you sort of play a percentage game at a certain point, I think, don't you? Like you send out a certain amount of messages, and if you send out enough, you're going to get some, even if it's not like necessarily a cover, you're going to get something back. You're going to get some kind of recognition of your application at least, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so the episode I did with Boot Music was all about getting press coverage. So and he had some interesting tips about like sort of visual identity and various stuff like that. But how would you see sort of how to like get press from your perspective, like beyond sending them the message?
Yeah.
What do you like try and do to convince them to cover your stuff?
I think having professional like pictures. So I have my photographer Florentine, who takes all of my photos, and having like professional press images and like professional videos as well is something that I think to like an industry eye like points out that like, oh, this person is like actually doing something. And then having like like citing experience as well, and like other magazines that have covered you to kind of like convince them to let you go. Yeah, it's
funny, you've got very similar tips to what James said, which is like visual language, and as soon as you get press, sort of using that to get more press, which sounds like it defeats the point, but it's just sort of, I guess prestige may be the wrong word, but like it's social proof almost, that like you can be put on a magazine and you'll know how to like promote it, and you'll know how to XYZ, you know?
And like you're serious as well.
I think I know what you mean by that. Like it's sort of, there's a lot of artists out there, and I guess it's sort of seeing like this person's like, there's like momentum there, you know? They're doing stuff to like get covers, and they're doing stuff to get featured in press stuff. That's really important. So moving on to, I was actually just going to talk about, like you mentioned visual language. What do you think like sort of most inspires you visually in terms of how you like approach your aesthetic?
I really like the color green.
Nice.
So like my whole branding, my logo, everything I wear, this jumper. I actually knit this jumper.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's everything's green. And like I sort of incorporate my style as well into my like visual language, I guess. So I wear like baggy jeans all the time and big jumpers. And I think that's quite a lot of like my aesthetic, I guess. Yeah. Apart from that, it's kind of like whatever's around, really.
Sort of just tying in things that you like, that you see in the world, and things that you would already wear and stuff. I mean, is there sort of specific, like, have you ever like sort of sat down and tried to like pin down exactly what you're going for, or is it just something that you think comes more naturally?
I think because like my branding is me, it comes like more naturally, as in like I buy things because I like them and then I end up wearing them on stage. Or like, like as an independent artist, I don't have the budget to have like a separate wardrobe, or like, you know, like backgrounds for like photo shoots and stuff. I've done all of my photo shoots in the Wavertree Botanical Gardens.
Oh, that's what it is.
Because it's a green space and it's like outdoors and free to use. So yeah, doing things on like a low budget as well. You just work with what you got.
I'm about to say, like, is there? I guess that's talking about like the spotlight album artwork and stuff where it's in the forest with the flowers, right?
Yeah, that was actually taken on Seal Street.
Oh.
There's like a garden wall, and we were on our way back from the photo shoot, like on the day, and that's why I have my tote bag on me. I was carrying the flowers because we were on our way back from the photo shoot, and we found the wall, and then we were like, oh, we'll just take a quick photo, and then
that ended up being the one that you
that I used. Yeah,
I would have sworn that would be the one from Wavertree Gardens when you mentioned that.
Yeah,
but that's crazy. So is there a ZARA Smile mood board somewhere online, or is it just sort of what comes to you?
It's sort of just what comes to me in the moment. Yeah. So like my Smile EP that I released in May, the like aesthetic of that was like kind of pinkish, and that was because of the photographer I use, Rachel Wonders. Her like editing style is very like pink and sparkly. Yeah. And that's just what ended up being the like mood board for that. Ended up being the photos that were taken. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say actually, how do you sort of go about finding sort of photographers and videographers who sort of get what you're trying to go for and sort of understand you and how that style is going to translate into visual?
Yeah, all the photographers I work with are great, but I do now have Florentine, who's my she's my girlfriend, so she's my full-time photographer.
Nice.
Free photographer, yeah. Yeah, and I think because she knows me very well, so she like does get the vibe that I'm going for every time. Yeah. Yeah.
I suppose that makes sense. But you used a different person to do your music video for Human, right?
Yes.
So maybe that's like a better example because it's more sort of someone it's more of a professional relationship, right?
Still my friend.
Yeah. Well, no, it's still a friend, but it's a bit different, right?
Yeah.
So like, how did you sort of approach like collaborating on the video for that?
We kind of created a bit of like a storyboard. I had the idea that I wanted to go with like ghosts for my music video. Again, because budget-wise, it was cheap to get sheets, like white sheets, and put them over people's heads. And I like the idea of like little ghosts running around. I didn't want my music videos to be super serious, so I said that as like a start. I was like, I want it to be kind of like quirky, kind of like silly. And then we like created a little storyboard for it, and they came over and we filmed it all in one day. And they just magically got the vibe, I think. Yeah, I think as well because they know me quite well because it's my friend Loz. I think they kind of got what I was going for. Yeah. Yeah.
Where does the sort of ghost iconography thing come from? Because I suppose it's sort of around a lot of things in your music. Is the sort of the ghost image? So where does that come from?
I think when I doodle on like paper, I always draw a smile and then a ghost, and it was just one of those things that like it just came to me. I was like, I could draw a ghost here, and that would be cool. Yeah. And also like the topic of human, the lyrics are I don't feel human, so I thought it'd be quite funny to do like a ghost.
Something that's not human.
Yeah, not human. Yeah.
You also put it on some merchandise recently,
yes.
which is I was going to move on to ZARA Smile merchandise manager.
Yes.
What inspired you to do merch in the first place?
I think I saw another artist on Instagram again, who was making merch, and I was like, oh, this is an idea that I could do. And then I found James on the Again network. Yeah. Who does the sustainable merch, and I am like all for sustainability and keeping things eco-friendly. So I reached out to him and I got my sister to design the merch.
That's nice.
Yeah, and then I just sort of I only made 15 shirts to start off with because I was like, these aren't gonna sell. Like I was like, I'm just doing it for a bit of fun. And it was actually a gig here in Arts Bar Baltic. Yeah. My birthday gig, and they sold out before I even went on stage.
Wow.
So yeah. Then I got another load in, and they've all gone as well.
Wow,
so
that's really cool. I think that's great because I think a lot of independent artists are almost a little bit scared to do something like merch because there is like an investment there that you might not like when you invest in say like recording in a studio or something, you know you're going to get a recording out of it, whereas if you invest in merch you don't necessarily know whether you're going to see a return on that or whether
absolutely
that kind of thing.
And it's almost like trying to convince. I was scared I was have to convince people to buy it, but people just were like, oh, cool shirt, yeah, okay, yeah. And also because they were like sustainably sourced, they were a lot cheaper than like regular shirts would be. So I priced them at about like a tenner a shirt. And people were like, oh, well, that's really cheap. So like for a shirt.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll get one of these then.
I'm about to say, yeah, James from the Again Network was great. I've met him at Future before. And I think, yeah, the whole thing about it just gives you more and more reasons to buy it because it's sustainably sourced. It's not overly expensive. I always kind of think that with merch, if someone sees you and they even just like your music, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to like love it. If they just think you're like decent, then sorry, someone just nearly walked past the camera and they just laughed. No, don't worry, mate. Don't worry. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah. So if someone likes your music, they don't even have to love it, right? If they then see your T-shirt, it's then just like a separate value proposition thing. If it's like a T-shirt that they would buy for £10 because they like the design and they somewhat like your music, that's honestly sometimes enough, I think.
Yeah, and I also just wanted to design something that I would want to wear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having like the little doodles and like the little text in the middle.
Yeah.
I just thought, yeah, it looks cute. So
I think that's really important because I really hate if you ever see. I don't know if many people do it as their merch, but some people buy like big artists like Oasis or something like that. They'll have T-shirts on Amazon, which I don't know if they make them or not, but
yeah,
there be T-shirts where it's a white T-shirt with a square,
yeah,
and it's the album, and it's like in the middle, and I'm just like, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I think it's nice to like make something, as I said, that you would wear. I think that's really important.
I didn't want something with my name on it because I was like, I don't want to walk around because I wear the merch. I wear the merch probably more of anyone I know. And I didn't want to walk around with my name on my shirt.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so something a bit more like subliminal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have your name on a shirt or like your band name on a shirt. But I think, especially for a solo artist, because it would be your name.
Because it's literally my name.
I think it almost implies like, for the person buying it, almost implies more investment in you as an artist.
Absolutely.
Whereas I think what I liked about the T-shirts, and I'm not saying that people wouldn't like your music in the first place,
yeah,
but like someone who's never heard your music before and doesn't know who you are could come to a gig, see the T-shirt and just buy it as a T-shirt even if they didn't know it was merchandise. I think.
Absolutely.
How important was getting the design right? You said your sister did it.
Yeah.
So someone you've worked with before, I'm guessing, on stuff.
Yeah. She used to design. I released music like years and years ago under a different name, and she used to design on my album covers.
That's nice.
So I FaceTimed her, and she has Procreate on her laptop and a little Apple Pen, and I was like, okay, this is the brief. I was like, I want ghosts, and I want why do I not feel human in the middle? And she's like, okay, perfect, give me 5 minutes. And she sent it back, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she was like, I've got to do my maths in half an hour, so it's got to be done. So, yeah. And then like in half an hour, I had a design.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah, because she's my sister, I can boss her around as well and be like, I don't like it.
That shit, move on. No, it wasn't. She was very nice. So I think that's all the roles I've got written down. Are there any other sort of roles in your head that you think you do? I mean, I suppose marketing, but we've kind of covered that with social media. Yeah,
I guess management as well, keeping myself in check, and it's time management and like organization as well. My Apple Calendar is insane.
You're a calendar person. I'm a calendar person.
It keeps everything very like in check. Just like managing myself, making sure I'm doing all the right things at the right time.
Yeah. Just touching on sort of marketing outside social media, that's come to my mind. Is there anything in particular that you sort of focus on outside of online stuff that you like to do marketing wise?
Honestly, most of the marketing I do outside of social media is verbal, like networking marketing. Just going to gigs basically is how I've created this whole thing. And just meeting people and going, I do music as well, and then being like, oh, here's my Spotify, or like, here's my Instagram. Just giving out your social media as much to as many people as possible, and just talking about it like it's like you just got to hype yourself up as much as possible. I
think that's important. Like I mean, I think networking's a scary word sometimes. It makes you think of like suits and handshakes and things like that, but when it's music, it's gigs and pubs and things like that. So I think it's often like a friendlier experience than people think.
I think I was scared of networking for a really long time. And then I did it once. I went out to I don't know whether you know the promoter May. I went to her mix. It's actually where I met James, Boot Music. And I just sat down, plucked myself down in Arts Bar, Hope Street, and I just started talking to people. And I was like, oh, this is actually, I'm just basically just making friends here. And like all the people I met that night are still like my friends. And I've also worked with them. And it sort of changed my outlook on networking, because it's just making friends and finding people with similar interests.
Yeah.
And then you can also mutually help each other out.
Yeah, I mean, so you said you met James there. Did you just sort of speak to him there and then about your music and getting covered and stuff?
Yeah. He had some of his magazines out on the table, and we were like flicking through it. And just got chatting about all sorts, and then I got a feature in his magazine. So
yeah, well, it's funny because he mentioned when he was here about that he prefers by far when he meets people in person.
Yeah.
As opposed to getting a DM or an email, especially when it's kind of a nondescript email or DM that just kind of says like, "Hi, please feature our music from this person." Here's a link. Like meeting someone in person is just so much more. This is gonna sound so stupid. Personal.
Yeah, it's more organic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can like really feel like what the person is talking about, and whether they're like really invested in the project. Yeah.
I'm about to say, I mean, anyone can put into, I don't know, ChatGPT or something, like write me a passionate email.
Yeah.
But like I think sometimes when you see someone, you kind of see it on their face that they like care about what they're talking about.
Yeah. And if they're like willing to talk about it as well.
Yeah.
For as long as a conversation lasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
Awesome. So I think we've covered most of the roles that you would sort of do. How have you sort of learned to tackle different roles at once?
I've always been quite good at like time management and organisation. I have a habit of taking more things on than I can control ever since I was like a child. So through that, I've sort of learned how to organise my time. Calendars help a lot.
Yeah.
And just sort of like making sure that like my daily routines fit in with like all the jobs I have to do. As well as like uni full time on top of all of this. Just sort of like I post like to TikTok once or twice a day, and it's just normally about what I'm doing, or just content I'll think of like throughout the day, and I'll just quickly film something.
I suppose it's sort of making it fit into your existing schedule somewhat, right?
Yeah, because you could spend your whole life getting bogged down in all the marketing and promotion stuff and PR and everything, but it's just making it fit in with like what I'm doing. Yeah, day to day.
You mentioned uni. You go to the uni and you do music.
I do indeed.
Is that sort of taught you a lot about the sort of the skills and stuff that you use with your career, or do you think you've learned a lot of that from outside that?
I think it's a mix of both, really. It's sort of learning the theory of it and then also doing it. So like learning like, oh, this is like what networking is, and then also going out to like a gig and then networking.
Yeah.
I recently did a module called self-management. It's a new one. And that has helped so much because I went in, they were like, why are you making this music? Who are you making this music for? And like, why do people want to listen to it? And I was like, oh,
I don't know.
I was like,
oh
my God. Okay. And it like really helped me like organize everything in my mind. And like,
that sounds like a good module. I'm annoyed I missed that.
Yeah. I've just finished it. I finished the assignment for it yesterday. So
very nice.
Yeah,
well
a massive portfolio. But yeah, it was a good module. Helped me like put things in place.
Yeah. So you do all these different aspects. Is there any part of you that sort of would consider like building like a team or like having a manager to like cover a lot of these things for you? Is that something you think about?
I was like, honestly, I really wanted a manager for a long time, but I think I've gotten to the point now where I'm so happy with being in control of everything, like all the different elements, that I couldn't imagine having to like tell someone else all of this information. Yeah, like getting like a DM being like, oh, do you want to do this gig, or do you want to be on this, and then also having to message someone else and tell them. I think I'd forget a lot of the time, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I just process the information. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll just put that in my calendar. So yeah, I don't know actually.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like, with the scale of operations at the moment, I'm happy.
Yeah.
If it gets any bigger, I may have to find someone to help. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. Thank you very much, and see you next time.